You've been through IVF, maybe once, maybe 3 times, maybe more. The embryos looked perfect, your lining was good, your doctor said everything looked great, but it didn't work. And when you asked why, they probably said something like, sometimes it just doesn't work, or let's try again with a different protocol, or your embryo quality needs to improve. But here's what they're not telling you. If your IVF is failing and they can't explain why, it's not because there's no explanation. It's because they haven't looked deep enough to find it. I'm Dr. Marc Sklar, also known as the Fertility Expert. And for over 2 decades, I've specialized in helping women who've been through failed IVF cycles finally get pregnant by uncovering the root causes that their fertility clinics completely missed or ignored. And I can tell you right now, when IVF fails repeatedly, there's always a reason. Always. It's just that most clinics stop investigating after they run their standard panels. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through the 5 critical root cause tests that most fertility clinics skip and why these missing pieces are likely the exact reason your IVF keeps failing. These aren't experimental tests. These are evidence-based functional medicine tests that should be standard practices but aren't, because most REIs are focused on the IVF protocol itself, not on optimizing your body's ability to actually receive and maintain a pregnancy. And more importantly, I'm going to show you exactly what to ask for and how to get these tests done, whether your doctors order them or not. Before we dive in, if you want to start taking action today, I've created a free guide called The Proven 6 Ways to Improve Egg Quality in 90 Days. You can grab that in the description below. Now, let me share why this matters so much. Here's the reality of how most IVF clinics approach testing. They run standard panels, AMH, FSH, estradiol, antral follicle count, a baseline ultrasound, saline sonogram, and maybe an HSG to check if your tubes are open and your uterus looks normal. Maybe they do a mock embryo transfer to make sure they can access your uterus. They run a basic semen analysis for your partner. If his numbers are low, they recommend ICSI. And then they say, okay, you're a good candidate for IVF. Let's start stimulation. But here's what they're not testing for: the deeper systemic issues that determine whether an embryo can actually implant and whether your body can sustain a pregnancy. These are things like silent immune system dysfunction that's attacking your embryos, chronic inflammation that's making your uterine environment hostile, thyroid levels that look normal on paper but are completely suboptimal for pregnancy, clotting disorders that are cutting off blood flow to your developing embryo, gut dysbiosis that's driving systemic inflammation and hormone disruption. These are not rare exotic conditions. I see these issues in the majority of women who come to me after multiple failed IVF cycles. And here's the frustrating part. When I order these tests and we find the root cause, we fix it, and suddenly they get pregnant, sometimes naturally, sometimes on the very next IVF cycle with the exact same protocol, because now their body is actually ready. Let me give you an example. I had a woman in my HOPE program who'd been through 3 failed IVF cycles. 3. She had beautiful embryos, genetically tested, PGT normal embryos, and not one of them implanted. Her clinic said, we don't know why. Let's try a 4th cycle. But I said, let's dig deeper first. We ran comprehensive immune testing and found that she had elevated natural killer cells and activated T cells. Her immune system was essentially rejecting the embryos as they were considered foreign invaders. Once we addressed that with targeted supplements, dietary changes, and immune modulating protocols, she did her 4th transfer, and it worked. She's now holding her baby. That's not luck. That's identifying and addressing the root cause. So let's go through the 5 tests your clinic probably skipped. The first test that's almost always missing is a comprehensive immune and inflammation panel. Most fertility clinics do not test your immune function at all. And if they do, it's usually just a basic ANA or lupus anticoagulant panel, which is nowhere near comprehensive enough. What you actually need is a full reproductive immunology panel that looks like natural killer cells, both the percentage and absolute counts of CD56 and CD16 cells. When these are elevated, they can attack an implanting embryo. Activated T cells, specifically CD3 and CD25 lymphocytes. When these are too high, it indicates chronic immune activation that can prevent implantation. Inflammatory markers like CRP and TNF-alpha, which tells us if there's systemic inflammation sabotaging your fertility. Antiphospholipid antibodies, things like anticardiolipin antibodies, beta-2 glycoprotein, and antiphosphatidylserine antibodies. These can cause blood clots in the tiny vessels feeding your placenta. And thyroid antibodies, because even if your TSH is normal, if you have elevated thyroid peroxidase or thyroglobulin antibodies, your immune system is attacking your thyroid. And that absolutely impacts implantation. Now, why does this matter so much? Because your immune system has to walk this incredible delicate line during pregnancy. It has to be active enough to protect you from infections, but it has to be tolerant enough to accept an embryo, which is 50% genetically foreign DNA from your partner. When your immune system is overactive or dysregulated, it treats that embryo like a threat. And it doesn't matter how perfect that embryo is, your body won't let it stay. What you can do about that right now? Well, first, you need to get tested. You can ask your fertility clinic if they work with a reproductive immunology lab. If they don't and they're resistant, there are labs that will allow you to work with them directly. Once you have that data, there are protocols to calm your immune overactivity. We use specific supplements like vitamin D3, omega-3 fatty acids, and NAC. We address gut health, which I'll talk about in a minute, because 70% of your immune system lives in your gut. Sometimes we work with reproductive immunologists who can prescribe medications like prednisone, Lovenox, or intralipid infusions. But you can't fix what you don't know about, and most clinics aren't looking for it. In the HOPE program, immune testing is one of the first things we do for anyone who's had implantation failure or early pregnancy loss, because I've seen it be the missing piece so many times. The second test that's almost never done is an endometrial receptivity analysis, an ERA. This test tells you whether your uterine lining is actually ready to receive an embryo at the exact moment your clinic is transferring it. Here's what most people don't understand. Your doctor will tell you your lining looks great. It's 8 millimeters. It's trilaminar. We're good to go. But thickness isn't everything. What matters is whether your endometrium is molecularly receptive at that specific moment of time. Your window of implantation, the time when your uterus is actually receptive to an embryo, is only about 24 to 48 hours long. And for some women, that window is shifted. It might open earlier or later than the standard day 5 transfer protocol assumes. The ERA test involves taking a small biopsy of your endometrial tissue during a mock cycle and analyzing the gene expression patterns to see if your endometrium is in the receptive phase. If your window is shifted, your clinic can adjust the timing of your transfer. And that simple adjustment can be the difference between failure and success. I've worked with women who have had multiple failed transfers with perfect embryos. And when we finally did an ERA, we discovered their window was displaced by 12 or 24 hours. They adjusted the timing on the next transfer and boom, pregnancy. Now, not every woman needs an ERA, but if you've had 2 or more failed transfers with good quality embryos and no other explanation, this should absolutely be on the table. You can ask your fertility clinic about ERA testing. Some clinics offer it routinely after failed cycles. Others are resistant because it adds cost and time. But if you've already spent tens of thousands of dollars on IVF that didn't work, spending another $800 to $1,000 on a test that might give you an answer is absolutely worth it. There are also other tests in this category, like the Emma and Alice tests that look at the microbiome of your uterus. If you have chronic endometritis or dysbiosis in your uterine cavity, that can prevent implantation even with perfect embryos and perfect timing. In my program, we look at all of these factors because it's not just about getting an embryo into the uterus. It's about making sure your uterus is actually ready to receive it. The third test most clinics skip is advanced thyroid and autoimmune testing. Now, your fertility clinic probably checked your TSH, and if it was under 4 or even under 2.5, they said your thyroid is fine. But here's the problem. For optimal fertility and especially for IVF success, your TSH should ideally be between 0.5 and 2.0. Anything above 2.5 can reduce implantation rates and increase miscarriage risk. But TSH is only one piece of the puzzle. You also need to know your free T3 and free T4 levels. These are the active thyroid hormones that actually affect your metabolism and cellular function. Your thyroid antibodies, TPO and thyroglobulin antibodies, because you can have normal thyroid hormone levels but still have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is an autoimmune issue attacking your thyroid. And autoimmune conditions increase the risk of implantation failure and early pregnancy loss. Reverse T3, which can be elevated if you're under chronic stress or if you have inflammation, and it blocks your active thyroid from working properly. I can't tell you how many times I've seen this. A woman comes to me after failed IVF. Her TSH is 2.8 and her doctor said it was fine. I order a full thyroid panel. Her free T3 is low, her reverse T3 is high, and her TPO antibodies are through the roof. We optimize her thyroid function, sometimes with medication, sometimes with targeted supplements like selenium and zinc, always with diet and lifestyle changes, and suddenly she gets pregnant. In my HOPE program, members had a TSH of 3.2 and a TPO antibody over 600. Her clinic never tested the antibodies. Once we got her TSH down to 1.5 and started addressing the autoimmune component, she got pregnant 2 months later. Naturally, not even with IVF. So what do? Ask your doctor for a comprehensive thyroid panel. TSH, free T3, free T4, reverse T3, your thyroid antibodies. If they won't order it, you can order it yourself through direct-to-consumer labs. And if your TSH is above 2.5, or if you have positive antibodies, you need to work with someone who understands functional thyroid optimization, not just normal ranges, but optimal ranges for fertility. In my program, thyroid optimization is foundational. We cannot skip this. It's too important for your fertility and your health. The fourth category of testing that's often missed is methylation and clotting disorder panels. This is especially critical if you've had early pregnancy loss or chemical pregnancies after IVF, because these often indicate that implantation happened but couldn't be sustained. The most common culprits are MTHFR gene mutations and clotting factor abnormalities. For MTHFR, it's an enzyme that helps your body process folate and regulate homocysteine levels. When you have MTHFR mutations, especially if you're homozygous for C677T or compound heterozygous, it can lead to elevated homocysteine, which increases blood clotting risk and can compromise blood flow to the developing embryo. Other important tests in this same category include factor V Leiden mutation. This is one of the most common inherited clotting disorders and significantly increases miscarriage risk. Prothrombin gene mutation, another clotting factor that can affect early pregnancy. Protein C and protein S levels. These are natural anticoagulants, and if they're deficient, you're at a higher risk for clots. The PI1 gene polymorphism, this affects your body's ability to break down clots. Antiphospholipid antibodies, which I mentioned earlier when we were talking about the immune system, but they deserve emphasis here too because they directly cause microclots in the placenta. Now, here's why this matters. If you have a clotting disorder and you don't know about it, you can transfer the perfect embryo in the world and it might implant, but then those tiny blood vessels that are supposed to feed your developing placenta start clotting off and you lose the pregnancy. So what can you do about it? First, get tested. This is typically called a recurrent pregnancy loss panel or a thrombophilia panel, and it should be done after 2 or more losses. But honestly, if you're doing IVF and you want to maximize your chances, I think it's worth testing even before your first loss. If you have mutations or abnormalities, there are treatments, usually baby aspirin, sometimes Lovenox injections, high-dose methylfolate instead of regular folic acid if you have MTHFR. I had a member in my program who had 3 chemical pregnancies after IVF transfers, 3 positive pregnancy tests that didn't make it past 5 weeks. Her clinic never tested clotting disorders. We ran the panel. She was heterozygous for MTHFR, the C677T gene, and had elevated homocysteines. We put her on methylfolate, baby aspirin, and focused on bringing down her homocysteine through diet and B vitamins. Next transfer, successful pregnancy and healthy baby. That's what happens when you find and address the root cause. The 5th and final test category that almost no clinic runs is comprehensive gut health and inflammation. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is often the most important piece of the puzzle because your gut health affects literally everything else we've talked about. It affects your immune system. It affects your hormone metabolism, your inflammation levels, your nutrient absorption. When your gut is inflamed or when you have dysbiosis, an imbalance in your gut bacteria, it creates systemic inflammation that makes your entire body hostile to pregnancy. The tests that I typically recommend include a comprehensive stool analysis that looks at your gut microbiome, checks for infections like parasites, bacterial overgrowth, yeast overgrowth, and assesses your digestive function and inflammation markers. An organic acid test, which gives us, for that matter, a window into your metabolic function, neurotransmitter levels, and also indicates if you have bacterial or yeast overgrowth. Food sensitivity testing, because if you're eating foods that trigger an immune response, you're creating chronic inflammation every single day. I see this constantly. A woman comes to me after failed IVF. We run a stool test and she has multiple gut infections she didn't even know about, or massive candida overgrowth, or several intestinal inflammation markers. We address her gut health first, targeted antimicrobials to clear infections, probiotics and prebiotics to restore healthy bacteria, dietary changes to remove inflammatory triggers, gut healing nutrients like glutamine and zinc, and then suddenly, without even trying, she gets pregnant. Or her next IVF cycle works when the previous ones didn't. I had a woman in my program 2 months after joining. She completed our gut healing protocol. She felt amazing. Her energy came back, her bloating disappeared, her cycles improved. 2 months after that, she got pregnant naturally. And I never even put her on fertility-specific supplements. We just fixed her gut because when your gut is inflamed, your body is in survival mode. It cannot prioritize reproduction, period. So here's what you do. Find a functional medicine practitioner who can order comprehensive GI testing. If you're in the HOPE program, we do this routinely. We assess everyone's gut health because it's foundational. And if you have gut issues, which most people do, they just don't know it. You address them before or alongside your IVF cycle, not after. Not we'll deal with that later on. Now, because fixing your gut might be the single most important thing you do for your fertility. So let's recap the 5 tests most clinics skip. Number 1, comprehensive immune and inflammation panel. Number 2, endometrial receptivity analysis. Number 3, advanced thyroid and autoimmune testing. 4, methylation and clotting disorders. And then 5, comprehensive gut health and inflammation. These aren't luxury tests. These aren't unnecessary add-ons. These are evidence-based tests that reveal the root causes of IVF failure. And here's what I want you to understand. If you've been through failed IVF cycles and your doctor can't tell you why, it's not because there isn't a reason. It's because they haven't looked in the right place. You deserve answers. You deserve to know why it's not working. And you deserve a plan to fix it. Now, if you're feeling overwhelmed and you're thinking, Mark, this is a lot. How do I even know which tests I need? How do I get them? How do I interpret them? What do I do with the results? This is exactly why I created the HOPE Fertility Program. In the HOPE program, we do all of this for you, with you. We review your complete history. We identify which tests are most important for your specific situation. We help you get them ordered. We interpret the results, and then we create a comprehensive, personalized protocol to address everything we find. You don't have to figure this out alone. You don't have to become your own doctor. You don't have to fight with your fertility clinic to get proper testing. I want to invite you right now to book a complimentary personalized fertility assessment with my team. On this call, we're going to review your entire fertility journey, your history, your test results, your IVF cycles, everything. We're going to identify what's been missed, and we're going to map out exactly what needs to happen next to give you the best possible chance of success. This isn't a sales call. This is a genuine clinical assessment where we figure out what's really going on and whether the HOPE program is the right fit to help you finally get pregnant. You can find that link to book your assessment in the description below. Here's the truth. Failed IVF doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean your body's broken. And it doesn't mean you're out of options. It means your body has been asking for something it hasn't gotten yet. And when we figure that out, we give your body what it needs. That's when pregnancy becomes possible. I've seen it happen hundreds of times. Women who were told they were out of options. Women who'd spend $50,000, $100,000 on IVF with no success. Women who were ready to give up. And then we found their root cause. We fixed it. They got pregnant. That could be your story too. So don't do another IVF cycle without getting proper testing. Don't spend another $20,000 hoping it works this time without knowing why it didn't work the last time. Get the answers you deserve. Book your fertility assessment. Let's figure out what's been missed, and let's create a plan that actually addresses your unique root causes. The link is in the description below. My team and I are ready to help you. And before you go, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos where I continue to share the strategies that are actually working for my clients. And leave a comment below. Tell me which of these 5 tests resonated most with you. Have you had any of these tests done? Let me know where you are on your fertility journey. Remember, there's always a reason. And when we find it, we fix it. Until the next video, stay hopeful and stay fertile.